He weaved through the crowd, planting puppet marks one by one. This time, the marks he placed were no longer set to detonate after 1 minute. Instead, they commanded them to encircle Kanaju, forcing him to kill them. More and more marked mark holders turned with numb eyes, walking toward Kanaju in the center of the ruins. Like vengeful spirits, they stared at him, slowly approaching, slowly surrounding him in the middle. Kanaju, a black chariot-level powerhouse, never feared anyone in his daily life. Yet in this moment, his feet faltered. He didn't know which direction to flee. "No! Don't come closer! Don't come closer! Don't force me to kill you!" From every direction, the three-eyed clan surrounded him. Kanaju dared not absorb the puppet marks within them, yet he couldn't bring himself to kill them either. Yet this would result in his complete defeat at Gao Changkong's hands, forcing him to watch helplessly as Gao Changkong committed atrocities. Gao Changkong would show no mercy to these three-eyed clan members. He would continue slaughtering them, compelling Kanaju to face his challenge. The spear sword in Kanaju's grasp slowed. With a single swing, he could easily cut these tribesmen down. But he simply couldn't bring himself to do it. Hidden within the crowd, Gao Changkong coldly watched the towering, mighty general, slowly extending his right hand. Explode! One after another, three-eyed clan members bearing the puppet markings detonated around Kanaju. Doors could perform distortion attack on surrounding attacks, but if Kanaju chose to activate it, he would inevitably slaughter countless members of the three-eyed clan nearby. Therefore, he couldn't even use his ability for defense. His injuries grew heavier. An urge to flee this place surged within Kanaju's heart. Gritting his teeth, he roared and shot skyward, soaring upward. In his duel with Gao Changkong, he admitted defeat to Gao Changkong's strategy. "My duty is to guard the Divine Spirit Temple, preventing anyone from approaching at such a critical moment. As long as he still intends to do so, he will come." Kanaju thought to himself. He believed Gao Changkong's primary objective wasn't killing the three-eyed clan members. Therefore, as long as he departed, these people would be safe. However, Gao Changkong was equally aware that in a direct confrontation, a fully unleashed Kanaju still held a significant chance of killing him. So how could he possibly follow Kanaju's line of thinking? He watched the escaping celestial steed in the sky, a sinister, terrifying smile curling his lips. "Run! If you escape, I'll slaughter everyone here." Gao Changkong now knew that their group had tied up Nash Kingdom's top masters. No second Epsilon would come to interfere. Now, within Nash Kingdom, he could do as he pleased. Below Epsilon rank, even the giants of the three-eyed clan were mere prey for his slaughter. Gao Changkong acted without hesitation. He raised the golden sacred sword in his hand, its golden radiance rising like the sun amidst the darkness of the slums. Divine and sacred, yet saturated with terrifying killing intent. Though Kanaju couldn't understand Gao Changkong's words, he sensed the unyielding intent to kill in his tone. Turning midair, he caught sight of that astonishing sword aura, his pupils involuntarily contracting. In Nash Kingdom at this moment, the other generals were all engaged in battle. Only he possessed the power to stop this ferocious demon king before him. Gao Changkong wasn't displaying an attitude of merely killing a few people. He radiated an intent to slaughter the entire three-eyed clan to the last. "Stop! You despicable scoundrel! Using civilians' lives to threaten me? You're not just shameless, you're utterly shameless." Kanaju, driven to desperation, swiftly leapt through the air. His spear sword swung viciously toward Gao Changkong, unleashing a colossal blade of energy hurtling straight at him. Gao Changkong knew his plan had succeeded. With a roar of triumph, the golden blade of energy from the Sunwell sword shot skyward, colliding head-on with Kanaju's blade. Under the frenzied collision of these two immense energies, the casualties were inevitably from the three-eyed clan. There was nothing to be spared. This scene made Kanaju's heart ache so deeply it felt like it would bleed. The three-eyed clan's reproductive capacity was already poor, every member was a precious treasure. Yet in this single battle alone, over 1,000 had perished. A gentleman may be deceived by proper means. Kanaju was a competent general. Setting aside allegiances, he commanded genuine respect. But now, this was war between races. Victory and survival were the only things that mattered. This presented Gao Changkong with an opening. It wasn't that there were mutants from Nash who didn't come to aid Kanaju, seeking to confront Gao Changkong. But their strength was too weak. Below epsilon rank, they were mere ants. They could not stop Gao Changkong's slaughter. Finally, a soldier couldn't hold back any longer and said to Kanaju, "General, if this continues, everyone will die. Stop holding back. Attack the civilians too." Muscles twitched violently on Kanaju's face. Gripping his spear sword tightly, for a fleeting moment, he too yearned to unleash unrestrained destruction. But could he truly do it? Born in an era of peace, could he really bring himself to slaughter his own people, those who had once revered and respected him, with cold, ruthless efficiency? Kanaju could not. The principle seemed simple enough, but this wasn't a history book. It wouldn't lightly dismiss the deaths of tens of thousands with a single stroke. Gao Changkong's assault continued relentlessly, sending wave after wave of human bullet hurtling toward Kanaju. The wounds he bore grew heavier and heavier. Finally, he erupted. Better to fight with everything he had than die in such agony. Hidden among the three-eyed clan, Gao Changkong finally drew Kanaju's attack. This single strike slaughtered all the surrounding three-eyed clan members. Gao Changkong had anticipated this moment. Human nature dictates that in dire straits, one chooses the path of least loss. Yet by now, Gao Changkong had already inflicted massive damage on Kanaju through these human bombs. He laughed loudly. "Not a pleasant feeling, slaying your own kin, is it? But this is merely the beginning, General." Gao Changkong continued to use the three-eyed clan as shields. They were utterly fragile, pierced effortlessly by Kanaju's gunblade like straw. But that mattered little. Gao Changkong knew that a general so deeply concerned for his people's lives, or fiercely protective of his own reputation, could only slaughter with immense inner torment, even if he steeled himself to do it. He intended to force Kanaju into endless slaughter of his own people. The more he killed, the more his heart would ache, the more his mind would spiral into chaos. Pushing a man to the brink of desperation, to the edge of madness, would render even his greatest strength useless. Boom! Golden sword energy shot skyward, clashing fiercely with equally sharp black energy in Nash Kingdom's slums. Both combatants emerged unscathed, but the trapped three-eyed clan members were torn into vast swathes of flesh. Roar! Kanaju's mouth gaped open, emitting a wail of agony, or perhaps a roar that sounded less human and more like a wounded beast. His eyes blazed crimson, tears long since dried up, yet he had no choice but to continue. Soon, under Gao Changkong's deliberate guidance, vast swathes of the slum were devastated. Countless members of the three-eyed clan perished in the aftermath of their attacks. Within less than 10 minutes, the entire slum area beneath the abyss lay utterly destroyed. No signs of life remained detectable. Kanaju descended into complete madness. He roared with numb fury, launching reckless, desperate charges at Gao Changkong time and again. He fought with a kill 800 enemies at the cost of 1,000 of my own mentality, attacking with a life-or-death desperation. His mind was utterly chaotic. His attacks lost all structure and rhythm. In a battle between top-level powerhouses, this was deadly. After yet another frenzied assault, a golden sacred sword pierced through his jawbone and into his skull. The massive centaur lay covered in blood, standing tall upon the shattered earth even in death, his proud head now limp and fallen. Gao Changkong was in no better shape. Facing a black chariot-level opponent in a frenzied rage, even though he'd already battered the enemy to a bloody pulp, Gao Changkong had nearly lost his own life. Now, multiple horrific wounds gouged his chest, blood staining his entire body crimson. He licked his parched lips, tasting the metallic sweetness of his own blood. Activate self-repair function. He couldn't recall how many times he'd uttered those words already. The combat suit's intelligence system instinctively injected medication, staunching the bleeding and repairing the damage. This time, the injuries were indeed severe. Yet, Gazing up at the black chariot-level centaur he'd killed, Gao Changkong still managed to twist his lips into a smile. Shortly after, Gu Man and Chen Xiaoxing arrived, rushing to tend to his wounds. With modern medical assistance, even severed limbs could be swiftly healed. Still, he needed to absorb Kanaju's origin to restore his supernatural abilities. For now, every second counted as he raced toward the Divine Spirit Temple above. That bastard Zhang Yi finished his opponent before me. He'll definitely head to the Divine Spirit Temple next. I can't let him get ahead. Absorbing the origin of Senbamu was swift. However, to fully assimilate this power and thereby enhance his own strength required a considerable amount of time. Under normal circumstances, it would take at least 10 days to half a month to accomplish. The sensation was quite peculiar. To this day, Zhang Yi couldn't clearly define what the origin of a mutant truly was. Part of it was a pure energy form, but the greater portion was definitely not something so simple. It bore some resemblance to the source of God or the spirit of sacrifice, functioning like a genetic key. Its primary function was to unlock the genetic locks within humans, granting them greater power. Gradually, Zhang Yi began to suspect that the origin of the mutant might be the same substance as the source of God and the spirit of sacrifice. After absorbing Senbamu's origin, the battles raging in the surrounding areas were still far from over. Zhang Yi began contemplating his next move. Should he head to the Divine Spirit Temple? He shook his head. That approach now seemed ill-advised. If the Divine Spirit Temple truly represented Nash Kingdom's highest authority, its defenses would be formidable. Going alone? Zhang Yi wouldn't be foolish enough to attempt that. After much deliberation, he decided against acting alone. At the very least, he needed to bring others along. Thus began his long wait. He would wait for the battles on the other fronts to conclude before seeking out the others to discuss the plan. After him, the Undertaker and Leah were the next to finish their fight. When Zhang Yi arrived, the Undertaker was leading Deji and a group of Sangha Temple's guardian Vajras, preparing to head to the winding long corridor and storm the Divine Spirit Temple. Spotting Zhang Yi, the Undertaker gave a slight nod in greeting. Master of Chaos, it seems you've resolved your issues over there? Zhang Yi regarded the Undertaker with curiosity. He still wore that same serene expression, so serene it was impossible to tell he'd just endured a brutal battle. Aren't you the same? Zhang Yi remarked. The Undertaker smiled without reply. He had indeed resolved his issue swiftly, yet his approach differed from Zhang Yi's. Zhang Yi had slain Senbamu, while he had merely sealed Leah temporarily. The time of the seal could be long or short, entirely dependent on Leah's ability to break free from his hypnosis. It was also possible he would remain under the hypnosis of the illusion for the rest of his life, unable to escape. Undertaker, at this point, there are matters we should discuss openly. Zhang Yi addressed the Undertaker directly. How much do you truly know about this place? You brought us here. At the very least, sharing some intelligence with me shouldn't be too much to ask. The Divine Spirit Temple was too mysterious for Zhang Yi to venture recklessly. He hoped the Undertaker could provide some intelligence. To his surprise, the Undertaker and Deji all shook their heads. We only know of this place from ancient Buddhist scriptures. In the mists of time, not even the legendary hero King Geezer ever truly ventured beneath the demon abyss. Back then, they only fought their way to the demon kingdom, discovered this abyss, and then retreated because they couldn't adapt to the subterranean environment. As for me, I'm merely following the guidance of our ancestors, coming here to purge the demons. The Undertaker spoke with heartfelt sincerity. Zhang Yi frowned, reflecting on what he'd witnessed during their journey. Here, humans existed like livestock, and these beings seemed utterly ignorant of humanity beyond their realm. It appeared the Undertaker spoke the truth. The history of Nash Kingdom stretched back too far, likely predating human civilization itself. What's your plan now? Charge straight into the Divine Spirit Temple? Zhang Yi pointed toward the colossal celestial palace overhead. Connecting the heavenly palace to this realm was a narrow, winding corridor. It appeared almost fragile, as if a giant palace had been propped up in the air with chopsticks. One careless touch might cause it to collapse. The Undertaker pressed his palms together, his face radiating profound sanctity and solemnity. The Buddha guided us here. As the protective deity of Tantra, I must utterly eradicate this demonic land. Therefore, we have no other choice. Even if it costs every last one of our lives, this realm must vanish from existence. Zhang Yi crossed his arms and nodded. Indeed, judging by the three-eyed clan's cannibalistic nature, they were humanity's natural enemies. If they weren't exterminated, perhaps one day humanity would be exterminated by them. Very well. Since the Undertaker has spoken, I will support you with all my strength. Zhang Yi said sincerely, I'll contact the other teams. We'll storm the Divine Spirit Temple together. Originally, Zhang Yi had planned to rally everyone to join the assault. But seeing these monks acting as if they were heading to their deaths, Zhang Yi immediately changed his mind. After all, they were driven by faith, not by calculation. Better to let them be the guinea pigs, testing the Divine Spirit Temple's defenses first. Just as Zhang Yi was about to leave, Deji suddenly reached out. Lord Chaos, wait. The Demon Palace is bound to be treacherous. We should journey together, that way we can watch each other's backs, wouldn't you agree? Zhang Yi's mouth twitched inwardly. I'd completely forgotten about this old fox. I must find them. Deji whispered a few words to the burial master, then approached Zhang Yi with palms pressed together in prayer, Amitabha. We shall await your arrival at the entrance to the winding corridor. Once everyone is gathered, we shall proceed together. Seeing no advantage to be gained here, Zhang Yi nodded. Very well. Go ahead and wait for me there. He was the only one who could contact the others. After all, among this group, he was the only one who could traverse the entire territory of Nash Kingdom within a minute. The land of the giants was immense. Even for mutants, traveling required significant time. Their communication devices only supported short-range contact. These issues were no problem at all for Zhang Yi. Soon, he arrived at the area where the Knights of the Round Table were stationed. Using the communication device, he quickly picked up their signal. Zhang Yi relayed the words of the Sangha Temple monk to Lancelot. Lancelot decisively agreed to go. There was no suspense. What had they labored so hard to reach this place for? Wasn't it for the so-called treasure of the underworld? The meager gains they'd made thus far were utterly insufficient to satisfy their appetites. Therefore, they absolutely had to reach the Divine Spirit Temple. Zhang Yi used the same method to contact someone close to Gao Changkong. However, the one who answered wasn't Gao Changkong himself, but his girlfriend. Guman Gao Changkong was still recovering from his injuries and harbored some wariness toward Zhang Yi. But after Guman relayed Zhang Yi's message, Gao Changkong also agreed to assemble near the loop corridor in a while. This journey into the abyss of demons was finally approaching its final destination. After more than half an hour, Zhang Yi's team, the monk soldiers led by the Undertaker, the Knights of the Round Table, and the Garuda tribe commanded by Gao Changkong appeared at the entrance of the spiral corridor. Behind them, the corpses of the Three-Eyed Clan had already piled up like mountains. Most were soldiers of the Three-Eyed Clan, who had been driving out these outsiders. But with all four generals defeated, how could they possibly stand against the strongest forces from the surface world? The scene was gruesome, a sea of corpses and blood. From this vantage point, Zhang Yi and his group appeared as ruthless, merciless invaders. Yet battles between different races, especially advanced civilizations, were fundamentally struggles for survival space. There was no question of justice or righteousness. It was simply the law of the jungle. When wolves devour sheep to survive, how could that be called cruel? The crowd gathered here had visibly thinned, most of the warriors they had brought had perished on the battlefield. Of those remaining, a significant portion were mutants of squad leader level or higher. The Undertaker clasped his hands together and addressed the group. Gentlemen, I understand your purpose in coming here. We seek only to eradicate the source of chaos that has threatened the snowy plateau for millennia. And what you desire is also found here. In that case, let us join forces and proceed together. Zhang Yi nodded without further comment. Having come this far, there was no turning back. Gao Changkong and Lancelot shared the same resolve. They stepped onto the narrow stone bridge, advancing toward the temple housing Nash Kingdom's supreme royal authority. They had expected Nash Kingdom's forces to obstruct their path. Yet unexpectedly, from start to finish, not a single soul stepped forward to block their path. Perhaps Nash Kingdom's people understood that ordinary soldiers could no longer stand in their way. Only Zhang Yi, as he advanced, suddenly felt an intense sensation of being watched. His intuition was exceptionally sharp, a passive ability stemming from his time element powers. He lifted his head, gazing at the temple growing ever closer and larger in his vision. An intangible sensation washed over him, as if he were being fixed in the deadly stare of some ancient, ferocious beast. A dangerous aura. Zhang Yi remarked calmly. Gao Changkong glanced at him from a short distance away. "What's up, old Zhang? Did you sense something?" Zhang Yi gave him a cool, indifferent look. "Old Gao, aren't you being a bit too familiar? But this place does feel dangerous." He took a deep breath, thinking silently, but this sense of danger pales in comparison to what we encountered beneath the Qinling Mountains. The three-eyed clan exerted far less oppressive pressure on him than the White Dragon had. It was clear these were two distinct civilizations, much like how human nations vary in strength. Even the four generals they'd faced earlier, whose power hovered around the Black Charioteer, hadn't reached that utterly hopeless, completely unbeatable level. Perhaps this time, through Nash Kingdom, they could finally glimpse the true nature of the subterranean tribes. Zhang Yi had a feeling this time, he would gain something significant. Sacred substances like the source of God were secondary, the paramount goal was uncovering the truth of history. The group approached the doors of the Divine Spirit Temple with utmost caution. From afar, the temple had appeared suspended high in the heavens, its grandeur commanding awe. Only upon drawing near did its immense scale become palpable, stretching their necks strained to glimpse its summit. Its crown was already lost within the clouds, shrouded in mist. The doors alone stood over 100 meters tall. Such proportions were awe-inspiring even to the three-eyed clan. For humans, the scale was beyond imagination. Zhang Yi led his group silently to the side, showing no intention of approaching the doors. Instead, two burly Vajra warriors among the Sangha temple monks stepped forward. Summoning their strength, they pushed against the two heavy doors. Screech, the doors creaked open slowly. A burst of white light illuminated the space ahead, drawing everyone's gaze forward as they simultaneously prepared for battle. Yet none of the expected chaos unfolded. The entrance revealed a long, white corridor. Within the ornate hall, the path was lined with half-meter-thick red carpets. White stone pillars stood on either side, intricately carved with exquisite patterns, breathtakingly beautiful. "Be careful. There might be an ambush here," Deiji warned the group. Beside Zhang Yi stood Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Fatty Su, all gripping their weapons as they cautiously scanned their surroundings. Zhang Yi's eyes shone with a distant light, his everything follows the trail ability, constantly alert for any danger that might approach. The group of dozens entered the silent hall, moving slowly along the narrow corridor. Yet along the way, not a single three-eyed clan soldier appeared. Dead silence reigned. Only when they reached the end of the corridor did they see another massive door. Before the door stood an enormous chair, occupied by a giant clad in silver armor. His frame was exceptionally massive, even by human proportions. He towered over Uncle Yu, a purely enhancement mutant, with broader shoulders and a thicker back. His armor resembled that of medieval Euro knights, yet his helmet was a twisted bull's horn design, revealing only a pair of deep, piercing eyes. The rest of his face remained shrouded in darkness, obscured by the dim lighting. Yet, with just a glance from those eyes, everyone present felt an immense sense of pressure. Zhang Yi instinctively swallowed hard. The oppressive force emanating from this figure was greater than anything he'd faced before, even greater than that of Senbamu. He wasn't alone in this feeling, everyone else shared it. Is this the final guardian? Lancelot's gaze grew grave, yet a hint of frenzied excitement flickered at the corners of his mouth. Regardless, this figure before them was undoubtedly an enemy. Every single one of them steeled themselves for battle. Zhang Yi cocked the white eagle in his left hand, while his right hand's holy judgment blade was enveloped in void black flames capable of obliterating all. Gao Changkong gripped the golden sunwheel sword, while Lancelot had reforged his sword of conquest, Conqueror, ready to lead the charge. The giant sat upright in his chair. Spotting the approaching humans, he didn't reach for the battle axe beside him. Instead, he slowly raised his right hand, pointing it toward the group. What terrible timing. This is such a nuisance. But I'm too busy to deal with you lot right now. Find somewhere to cool off. With that, he snapped his fingers lightly. The space before them twisted like a rag. Zhang Yi sensed a familiar power, the power of space, instantly enveloping everyone present. Babu, the last of Nash's 5 great generals, activated his ability, Void Exile, the moment Zhang Yi and his companions entered the Divine Spirit Temple. Before Zhang Yi and the others could react, the space before them warped violently. Their bodies spun out of control, and in the next instant, each found themselves hurled into a different dimension. Zhang Yi felt little more than a momentary blur before the scene before him shifted entirely. Beneath his feet lay polished white stone slates as smooth as jade, surrounded by a vast, opulent palace. Yet compared to his own stature, the palace felt eerily empty. Liang Yu, Fatty Su, and the others who had been around him vanished without a trace. This sudden ability, lacking any offensive nature, had caught Zhang Yi completely off guard. A spatial transfer skill? Zhang Yi instantly grasped what Babura had done to them. This left him utterly surprised. He knew guardians or similar entities must exist within the Divine Spirit Temple. But he had expected a fierce battle upon encountering them, not that they would be scattered to different locations. Is this to defeat us one by one? Zhang Yi voiced his conjecture, then began surveying his surroundings with heightened vigilance. His spiritual domain sensed spatial fluctuations, allowing him to detect most attacks. He immediately broadcast a message through the communication channel to Liang Yu and the others, seeking their locations. Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, Fatty Su, can you hear me? Where are you now? Are you together or separated? Zhang Yi inquired cautiously. Yet, after a long while, he received no response. The intelligence system alerted him. Master, this area seems to possess a unique magnetic field that blocks communication signals. Zhang Yi's brow furrowed. This is quite a problem. Babu had scattered the group. While Zhang Yi could protect himself, the others might not fare as well. If Babu seized this opportunity to attack Liang Yu and the others first, then any mutant below Epsilon rank would likely be instantly killed. This thought filled Zhang Yi with deep concern for the others' safety. At this moment, only Flower remained by Zhang Yi's side, along with Spirit Guardian and the others attached to his shadow. Zhang Yi immediately sought to activate his space shuffle ability to leave here, though the Divine Spirit Temple was vast. With his power, he could swiftly locate the scattered individuals and gather them together. Whoosh! He swiftly teleported toward the open area ahead. Yet, the moment he emerged from the dimensional gate, he was stunned to find a massive white wall blocking his path. Zhang Yi's pupils contracted sharply. Hovering midair, he surveyed his surroundings in astonishment. He could confirm he remained within the same vast space, having not departed. Some force seemed to prevent him from traversing this wall. Zhang Yi, somewhat incredulous, extended his hand to touch the wall ahead. The instant his palm made contact, an indescribable discomfort instantly enveloped his entire body. This sensation felt somewhat familiar, akin to touching the eternal barrier gate long ago. But this discomfort was far more intense, even carrying a bone-chilling coldness. Zhang Yi instinctively stumbled backward dozens of meters, his gaze fixed on the vast space around him, momentarily bewildered. Nash Kingdom has a long history of researching supernatural abilities. Could they have invented materials that suppress supernatural powers? Zhang Yi murmured.